All right, so today I want to talk about food and the midlife woman and what it is that we need to eat and not eat in order for us to have some success in the weight loss department and taking away some of those symptoms that you're having, like hot flashes, night sweats, flushing of the face, all that kind of stuff. So, number one, you're going to have to pay attention to your carbohydrates, sister. I am sorry, but you have to at this stage. As a former personal trainer of over 25 years, I have to tell you that if you don't pay attention to your carbohydrates, you are going to be sadly disappointed in the fact that you're not going to be able to lose the weight like you want to. So let's talk about that. Number one, many women have what we call is a carbohydrate intolerance or reduced carbohydrate tolerance. And so basically, your body does not utilize carbohydrates like it used to. And this has a lot to do with insulin sensitivity, which also happens to about 50% of the women who go through menopause. So basically, Cole's Notes version is that when you eat a carbohydrate, your body doesn't burn it off like it used to. Okay, so you end up with an overabundance of sugars in your bloodstream. And what ends up happening is that ends up getting stored as fat. So the easiest way around that, of course, is to reduce your carbohydrate intake so that the carbs that you do eat, your body has absolutely no choice but to use it for fuel. So typically, a menopausal woman should reduce her carbohydrates to about 80 grams per day. I know, it's not a lot. It's depressing. Now, having said that, you might be able to push it up a little bit, but you also might have to reduce it even more. All of the clients that I work with, it's kind of a person by person or woman to woman evaluation because everybody's different. Different metabolisms, different body structure, different muscle mass, different activity level, but typically it's around 80 grams per day. So what I would do is I would start with that and see how it goes. If you are used to working out a ton, first of all, you might be working out too much now. Cortisol is a really big problem when we enter this age in life because our body does not deal with cortisol in the same way. It actually has a big problem with it, and that is a problem. When we have too high cortisol, we end up gaining weight. So if you want to mitigate the cortisol in your body or to lessen it, you need to do a lot less strenuous exercise and a lot more consistent, steady state exercise, like going for really long, aggressive walks. That is your best friend. I used to be somebody that was crazy into HIIT, really long runs, doing tons and tons of workouts all the time, and it wasn't working. But what was working was a lot of walking. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can walk and talk with my girlfriends all day long. And that's what I have been doing, and it is working like a charm. So get walking your little tush off and be very mindful of your carbohydrate intake. And of course, as always, we want to make sure that the carbohydrates that we're eating are good carbohydrates. So if you're eating stuff like white rice and potato chips and white flour, even whole wheat flour, not good, right? It converts to sugar really easily in our body. So cakes and cookies and crackers and rice cakes and rice noodles and, of course, everything that tastes good, right? All the stuff that we typically gravitate to because it gives us really quick energy. There's a little hint for you. It's because it converts into sugar really quickly in our body. But the downside of that is it converts into fat really easily too. So you want to have good carbohydrates like yams and, even legumes and things like quinoa. So really healthy, complex carbohydrates that don't have a high glycemic index factor, right? So you want to keep that in check. So around 80 grams per day. I don't want you to be obsessive over the grams. Just calculate it a couple days in a row so you get an idea of what it looks like. And you should start to see some effect in a positive way. Now, here's the other thing I want to talk about when it comes to cortisol and carbohydrate. A lot of women have high cortisol levels when they wake up in the morning, and the only way for you to kind of get that in check is by eating a complex carbohydrate. So if you're feeling really full of anxiety when you wake up in the morning and you're just really jittery and you haven't had any coffee, you're probably one of the women that requires having some carbohydrate first thing. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Like sometimes I'll wake up and I'll be like, woo, I'm just wired, tired and wired. I literally have some banana, not an overly ripe banana because that increases the sugar content. I have a moderately ripe and maybe a little underripe because it has resistant starch too. Now, resistant starch is good for your gut microbiome. And what happens is that your body doesn't really utilize it as calories per se. So it's kind of one of those, free foods, kind of. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say free. But it has a lot of benefit and not a lot of negative. So I have a couple bites of a banana and I'm good to go. My body just relaxes. The cortisol levels kind of get in check and I feel good. On the flip side of that, if you're somebody whose brain does not shut the hell off at nighttime, and let me tell you, this brain here is one of them, it does not shut off. So how I mitigate that is I have some complex carbohydrate with my dinner meal, maybe a little bit more than what I would have had during the daytime, because I'm good to go in the energy in the daytime. I can survive on protein and vegetables, no problem. Maybe an apple, I'm good to go. So I save some of the complex carbohydrates, and my go-to is a yam. Actually, it's not even a yam. I did a bunch of research on what yams actually are, and did you know this? Those yellow and those orange things that we eat at Thanksgiving, those are not yams. Those are sweet potatoes, and they're even purple. Yams look horrifying. They look like a really big zucchini, and they're white and they have fur all over them, like fuzzy shit everywhere, like hair. That is a yam. Well, I can honestly say that I have never seen a yam in my life. So I have been eating sweet potatoes this entire time. I have not been eating a yam. So all the grocery stores, when they say, oh, they're yams. No, they're not. A yam is an ugly little piece of vegetable that's got like hair and stuff all over it. So, and apparently, this is the other thing I did not know, and I know this is a bit of a digress, but that's the way it is. You cannot eat a yam raw. It actually has a protein in it that is going to make you sick. Well, hit me with a V8. I had no idea. No worry, because I wasn't eating a yam. I've been eating sweet potatoes all the time. And I do eat them raw as I'm slicing them up to cook for my dinner, because I know it's going to help me feel not only satiated, but it's going to help me sleep at night by keeping my cortisol in check. But I slice and dice and I eat them raw. And when I was reading that, I was like, oh my God, I've been causing myself some disease. And then I looked at a picture and I'm like, that's not a yam. So there you go. You've been eating sweet potatoes all this time. So anyway, that is your tip for carbohydrates, how many carbs, and your cortisol level and what you need to do to keep it all in check. I hope this helps, and we'll see you on the next video. Don't forget to follow me on my blog at Monica Diane with an E on the end .com. Oh yeah, and it's Monica with a K, with a K, however you do that, a K.